Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Denisha Keating Show. Super, super excited to have Alyssa with me today. We are going to be talking about a very uncomfortable table talk conversation. This is our kitchen table conversation with a friend. So remember the rules. We cannot yell, we cannot scream, we cannot talk over each other. We're actually coming to the conversation to understand. We want to understand by asking questions, not to respond, but to really understand where the person's coming at and why. And we're going to invite you to be that fly on the wall to listen to how we would navigate a conversation. Now, Alyssa and I are brand new friends. So this conversation is not going to end up poorly because we're going to treat each other with respect, right? But
Very
one
true.
of the things that tends to happen with politics is that we have seen all over social media people destroying people. And that is very depressing and sad. Now, we're going to hone this into California. California is currently up against a governor election, and it is a hot topic amongst every Californian that we know that it's like I'd rather not talk about it. Now, a large portion of former foster youth follow me, and I know we've had private conversations about how hard it is to find information and look information up to see if it's actually true. So, Alyssa's going to come into this conversation with me because she's been doing some research on our candidates for California, and she's going to give me some information. So, Alyssa, who are our candidates for California governor in 2026?
So, as of right now, we have about three major candidates, and one is Democrat. That is Katie Porter. She's from Irvine, California, and she has history in politics, starting in the Senate and House of Representatives. And then we have on the Republican side, we have Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, who's running for Republican, and also Steve Hilton, who is a previous Fox News commentator, and he's also from England. So those are the three major candidates that we're looking at. Of course, there's always going to be multiple small politicians that are trying to get their name out there, trying to run. But as of right now, those are our three big dogs that we're talking about.
What makes them a big dog? Is it like, how do we know that they're the big dogs of California right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the campaign quality. So a lot of that comes from funding. High funded campaign makes a big difference. Definitely following on social media and in terms of like likability. And then also their previous political experience, I would say. So Katie Porter is very qualified in like the political world because she has held multiple terms of Senate. Um, Chad Bianco, Riverside County Sheriff, Steve Hilton, political commentator. So we see them have histories within our political spectrum that can definitely lead them to be more qualified than the other candidates.
When it comes to looking at these candidates, when you line them up, what are the biggest differences with each of these three?
So we see one major Democrat, and we see a very large gap in the difference between Democrat and Republican. And that definitely goes in terms of economics, how we handle our budgets. Right now, we see current crisis in the border and how California is a sanctuary city. And Democrats and Republicans have very opposing opinions on how to go about those things. Abortion, school funding, it goes down to the very every single little topic basically fundamentally disagree on. So that's a major difference between Katie Porter and the other two candidates. And then I would say between Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, we see a very large moral separation between the two. And of course, that
Mm-hmm.
is subject to opinion. I'm a Christian, so I definitely see it from a Christian perspective. And I think that
Right.
that is the biggest policy difference between the two is through their morals.
And when you're looking up what their morals are, what are the things that they're talking about that's different? It's like specific as possible.
Right. So like to be fully transparent, they Chad Bianco, Steve Hilton, they have very similar policies on their websites. I would say that Chad Bianco has much more clear detail on like plans of action, the actual problem that's at
Okay.
hand. available for the readers on his website. Um, I'm sorry, I fully forgot the question.
No, you're good. So what are the biggest differences? Because I don't know them, so I want you to speak to me
Right.
like I'm five. Like the Michael Scott moment for me. I know Chad Bianco just because I live close into that vicinity of where he is doing a lot of his events. So I get to see some of that stuff coming through on social media.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know enough about Jeff. So you had said moral wise, they're very similar, but there's some stark differences between the two.
Right.
What are those moral differences for them?
Right. So, speaking from my perspective, abortion, we have seen Chad Bianco go and speak at pregnancy centers for their benefits and galas and speak in favor of life. And we see Steve Hilton have a long history of tweets and news segments talking about being pro choice and being um, yes, sensitive to the topic, but not standing for life and not standing for the unborn children.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Bianco has not clearly stated his standpoint on gay marriage, but he is a Christian, and the Bible does denounce homosexual marriage or sexual relations. And
Mm-hmm.
Steve Hilton is in favor of that. And those two issues are quite those two topics are very separate from each other at this point because we do see gay marriage being codified in the US, whereas abortion is more of a matter of funding. So that's where, as a Christian, that's where my mind goes to for governor is what are their stances on abortion, because that is directly impacted by their actual jurisdiction.
Mm. So one
So
of the things I've seen Bianco talk about too is education. So is there a difference between their education value, moral or value with what they're bringing to the table for all three candidates?
all three candidates. Katie Porter. So everyone, I would say that everyone runs on a promise of making education better for our children. And I think that it is one of those things that since they all choose to run on that it is harder to decipher their actual course of action and like how they would impact the school system being a governor.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
would say that I wouldn't want to say what they all specifically believe in because it's not an obvious statement that they're
Yeah.
making, unfortunately, and it can be really confusing when you're
Heck
trying to look
yeah.
into it. So
Right.
my mind first goes to for education is like the current. I don't know if you've seen like at like your Rolinda High School this past weekend with like yeah, you saw that with
Yeah.
like transgender being in girls sports and stuff like that. Just all around, that's a really big topic right now in California about schools altogether
Right.
and not just in sports. So I think that that might be one of the things that we should all be looking for in a candidate is how they respond to those types of situations and topics.
I think the hardest part is when we start to talk about these hot topics of male in female sports, then we talk about abortion. Everyone's just like, well, you hate everybody. Like, and I know that this is probably going to cost us a little bit of like, people are going to come at us on this because we're talking about these two topics. And I'm going to be honest, it's very sad because we can't have an open dialogue. I have a hard time with these conversations because I do know people who are transgender. I do know people who are in the LGBTQ community. And what I can't wrap my head around is like, I'm not talking about a teenage boy who has said, okay, I'm a girl and they want to go into the female bathroom. I'm talking about the situations that we have seen in California where it is a grown man going into an LA Fitness or I'm just naming a gym. I'm not saying it was LA Fitness. LA Fitness, don't come at me. But going into like a gym, going into the woman's bathroom and then like the court and I'm not sure if this was in California, but I heard this story where it was like he was severely obese and he was in the women's bathroom at this gym, and the people who own the gym were like, well, we're not going to tell him to get out, but he's in the woman's locker room and he's completely exposed. And what the judge came back and said was, well, he's too big, you couldn't see down there, his belly was covering it. I kind of sat back and I'm like, as someone who is a sexual assault survivor of not just like what I grew up in, but also like different people who have done that to me, it's like I have seen men walk into the women's bathroom and I freak out. It doesn't matter if they're believing that they're a woman. It's just, it is terrifying to me in that moment to be like, well, I don't even want to go outside because there could possibly be someone who just walks into this bathroom. And that
Mm-hmm.
is a thing in California, is that is allowed. We
Yeah.
see it, we know that is allowed, we can't do anything. And there's people not in the LGBT community, but people who are outside of that community coming in and being like, you can't legally do anything to stop me from doing this to you. And
Mm-hmm.
we can't even press any type of charges if they walk into a bathroom because they're legally allowed to be there because we have these laws in place. And I think the hardest part is like we can't have an honest conversation. And I remember when this law was passed, and I don't remember the year, I think it was like we started talking about this after I was done in high school. I graduated in 2008. And I think it was roughly around 2012 where we were having this conversation. And I had expressed that to somebody like, hey, like I have been in these situations and this happened to me. And someone walked in and they were like, well, you can choose a different bathroom. And I was just like, oh, this is not a safe conversation to have.
It's not the
But it
response.
was like, yeah, go ahead.
It's not the response that any woman deserves. Like survivor of assault or like just like any kind of woman. Like it's not what we deserve to be met with. We deserve to be met with
No.
protection and with security and with comfortability, especially in spaces where we are vulnerable, like our locker rooms and our
Yeah.
bathrooms.
Yeah, where we're changing. And I know in my head, I'm like, every high school has a bathroom that is a single stall bathroom that it's like, okay, we have that student who wants to go in and change and not be humiliated if they are transitioning, they could use that bathroom. But that response back to me was from someone who said like, you can choose the different bathroom. And I was like, if I was allowed, I would. I don't want to get changed in front of even girls. Like that is how deep wounded that sexual abuse can go, is that we don't even change in front of other women. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think people realize that and recognize that. But it has been, like at first it was like everyone's like, oh, it's not going to pass, don't worry about it, and then it did. And it's like we
Wow.
have seen an increase in assaults happening in bathrooms. We've seen an increase of women just being like, I'm not safe, I'm not going to go into public bathrooms because they're like, I can't even do that to myself. But that's who we forget. Now then you add the sports thing, and now it's okay, now they're going to compete in your sport and they are physically different than you, and we're seeing girls get injured from the force of what this person can do. It's not, and I know it is also about the loss where it's like, okay, they didn't get to win and they were the number one in their race, and then someone else came in and it was like, wow. But it's also about the physical injury that could happen, and people are like, that doesn't happen. It's like, it does. We are seeing it happen.
Mm-hmm.
When have you had these conversations with people, and how, because if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I just turned 21.
Okay, so you're in a younger realm. What are those conversations like? Because that's very different. I'm 35. It's very different
Right.
conversation. I'm in the parent realm, and
Yeah.
some of those conversations are surprising. But you're in the midst of what it is impacting you. What does that look like when people are having conversations surrounding these two things?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the two converse it can go one or two ways. It's very extremely, oh my goodness, how could you not be accepting of this? How could you ever think this way? Like they're human, da da da. Or it's very like, yeah, I agree with you. It's not right. It's not appropriate. There's no questioning minds, undecided minds at this point, I feel like.
Mm,
And that can be because of the overexposure of political content like in our society and on social media.
that's true.
Um, and there's also no middle. It's very black and white. Um,
Mm,
one way or the other. There's no
yeah.
medium on a topic like this right now, I feel like.
I don't think that there is either, even in my age group, because a lot of the people I know have younger kids. What I
Hmm.
do see though is that more of them are the parents of the child who's transgender, and it's like, well, I don't want my kid bullied because they were getting bullied in the boys' bathroom, and I don't want their life to be at stake. But it also is on an I'm gonna say this is in high school, like there I had a friend who was coming into the girls bathroom and it didn't actually help him as much as people thought it was going to, and it
Hmm.
actually caused him to get bullied more. And that
Hmm.
was really hard to watch because it was like he was getting like physically assaulted in the boys bathroom, and then because he was going in the girls bathroom he was still getting physically assaulted in the girls bathroom. And so
Right.
it
And
was
that
really
just,
hard because we thought we were doing the right thing by letting him come in with us, but it actually made him more of a target. And he
yeah.
even said that at one point. He's like, I'm screwed if I do or don't. And
Yeah.
that was heartbreaking to watch. But the people my age, it is like, well, that's my kid. And I understand that, but it's like, okay, but you're not taking into consideration those who have been sexually assaulted, of how that feels to them, that it doesn't matter if they know this person is safe, like it still makes me uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And it's not that I think that person's attacking me, but it opens the door for someone who's going to take advantage of it, and that scares me.
100%. Yeah, 100%. There's no space for this to be happening, to be honest. And I know it's just really controversial to say, but like it's important to have empathy for people, yes, and that's a great example of like why we should be empathetic is because there was really no good option for that person that you were friends with. But at the end of the day, I believe that this is fully a identity confusion, and I don't believe that
Mm,
helping them is affirming them and letting this happen and continue to go on. I don't think that that is helpful or loving at all. So,
right.
um,
I think
it,
it's hard because when they wrap it into mental health issues, that's where I
mhm,
think people are like, it's not a mental health issue. And I'm like, it's the same as body dysphoria though. Like I have struggled with weight my whole life. I've struggled with self-image my whole life. And like I could look in the mirror and I would think that I looked like I was 500-600 pounds when I was 120 pounds. And it
mhm,
did not help me when a person was like, here, just take, if you want to lose weight, here's this diet pill. I got it. I started taking a diet pill because I wanted to lose weight because I thought I was gigantic, and I wasn't. What I needed was someone to show me how to eat, not here's this extra diet pill to lose weight. And that
mhm.
I know people are going to come at that, but it is the same thing because it is something up here in our brain that's saying this is not who I am and what I look like. What you see is different than what I feel. But
I think that's
I
a
think
great
so many people get
comparison.
offended. I think people get offended over the mental health thing. Like, it's not a mental illness. And I'm like, but it's a mental distortion of what you really think you are. And that it is the truth. So how do we, but when you have this conversation, like if we were sitting across from somebody who was, I think you said it was empathy, but like, how would you talk to that person in love? Because I think people think it's just this harsh, like, ew, get away from me. But it's really like, hey, I love you enough to sit down and tell you the truth. Because that's what
Right.
it sounds like to me.
I mean, I don't think that love always looks like affirmation and
Mm-hmm.
acceptance. I think that it is a very fine boundary with like, how we said empathy of I understand that like there are struggles that have been causing this and that like I understand that
Mm-hmm.
this probably isn't how you want to feel. You probably don't want to be
Yeah.
confused. You probably don't want to be going through this tough transition. You probably don't want to be going through all these things. But I
Yeah.
love you enough to like have this tough conversation that I don't really want to be having with you. And
Mm-hmm.
like I have a cousin who's transgender and they married into the family and I never knew them before. And it's
Mm-hmm.
always such an interesting thing because I love them more than my own cousin at this point. Like they're just so much more like friendly and outgoing and just like funny.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's such a weird thing when I interact with my cousin because it's like they're fully my family. They're fully, like loved by me, but it's like I will
Yeah.
never see them as a man, and it's such a tough line to walk internally for me and as well as for them, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
it's that tough border of meeting them and like staying loving while
Mm-hmm.
also like staying true to like your own personal beliefs and like how you truly feel about the situation, because if you affirm them, then you're lying to yourself and to them, and that's not loving. So
Yeah. And I think it's hard because the reason we're talking about this is because it leads to policy and laws
100.
that end up opening a door to something different.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm like, look, if you want to get married, get married. I don't care. You want to open up the bathroom to where any man can walk in right now and just say that they're a woman. I can't. Not just for my own safety, but the safety of other women, because it's terrifying. Like, we can't go and run by ourselves without feeling like we have to watch our every step. Now we can't even go to the bathroom. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like that is so much harder. And again, I think people stop the conversation as, well, they're a young child, they're a young teenager, they're a young adult. It's like, you don't understand. Like, there are men who are 50, 60 years old that are the ones doing these things, and it opened the door for that. So
Mm-hmm.
within California, we specifically have that as a policy. Like, you can go into a grocery store and walk into the women's bathroom as a male, and no one can stop you. And
Right.
it's like,
And
okay, but then now you're doing this in
discrimination
schools.
and harassment when we feel a type of way about it. And that's so
Yeah, because then you
right.
speak up and then you're targeted as all of these horrible things. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, like, I wish I could explain what happens internally, but I shut down and I freak out. And it's not about the person. Like, I don't know if they're safe or not. It's like, well, they're a good person. It's like, when I saw that 60-year-old man came in there full beard, like, I'm sorry, I did not think that that was a safe situation for me. And
100%.
again, like, let's, you want to have a bathroom that's open to whoever, cool, and then have one for women and male, just do it that way. But then that's where the pushback comes, where it's like, no, we shouldn't do that. But then this also bleeds into something else within education, and it's what we're teaching children about body and mind and
Gosh,
sexuality.
you brought this up on such a good day. I just got this book in the mail. I'm gonna grab it. It's literally sitting right here.
Okay. We like to grab things when we're on camera. I do it all the time
Right?
too. I'm like, wait, let me go grab something.
I'm gonna like fully like take the lead on this one and just fully cut
Yeah,
you off.
go for it.
Have you seen the Huntington Beach? They have like Measure A and B going to be passed on June 10th, and it's all up in big talks right now. I've been to this one of their city council meetings about this, and it is
Okay.
all in regards to the books that are in their public libraries and how inappropriate they are. And
Mm,
the same goes for schools. Chino Valley has been in the media so many times about this stuff, and it is just
hmm.
ridiculous. And my best friend Savannah, her Instagram's Sav the Patriot. If you've ever seen her, she's great. She will go, and she just went the other day and she read one of the books. Look, random page. Can I don't even know if I can show this
I
on.
wouldn't show it because it'll
Yeah,
censor it. But
it,
can you list what the book is called and people can go look themselves?
yeah. The front of it's not bad. It's called "Let's Talk About It." This is found
Okay.
in the Huntington Beach City Library, and
Okay.
this is marketed towards teens, yet it
Okay.
is also published by Random House Children's Books. Right there. Random House
Okay.
Children's Books.
I like
And it is the
drink
most
all over me like we would at a kitchen table. Sorry.
it is the most disturbing book I've ever heard, ever seen with my eyes.
Okay.
Um the chapters are all about, can I say words? Like even if they're like sexual?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can say it, and it'll probably censor it, but I don't think
Okay.
YouTube does, but here we go.
So chapter
Explicit
4.
warning, if you're in the car, hold on. If you are in the car with children, you may want to stop recording, like listening, and
Yeah,
listen to this later. That is my plug. Now you can
that's
resume.
much needed. Chapter 4,
Yeah.
what are gender and sexuality? Chapter 5, what is body image? Chapter 6, what is your body? Where do you start? What is masturbation? What is safe sex? What is climax? What is sexting? What are kinks, fantasies, and porn? What is aftercare? What is jealousy? Like, just like very.
Those are really weird to mix in together. What is
Yes.
jealousy versus all the
I
other
mean,
stuff?
it's all about relationships and stuff, but this book, I'm not joking, teaches teens how to fist themselves.
Oh my
I'm
God.
literally, I'm not joking.
And
It
that's
is.
in school libraries
This is in the
or
Huntington Beach
public libraries.
Public City Library. I'm not sure if this specific book has been found in a school. I'm sure it has, but I know like close to
Probably.
us, Chino Valley Unified School District has had similar books in their schools, and that is their lore. I'm literally looking at right now a graphic of a woman on top of a man in bed. Now I'm looking at
Oh God.
a naked man, and he's tying up protection after he's used it, and it's
Oh
just
God.
it's literally horrible. I'm literally looking at someone touching themselves. It's horrible.
I'm not seeing it in like when I look up online, I'm not seeing that it is in there, but I'm seeing that in 2023 they did sign AB 1078, which does ban textbooks and censoring. It does ban some books in higher weight
Are you looking
sign, which
through?
has banned books and textbook censorship. It's not no, it's for schools, like in
Okay.
some of the schools, but it's not in all of them, and the book is not showing up, but it's just saying,
Yeah.
oh, they banned over 10,000 books that were explicit.
Yeah.
However, it being in a public library is concerning to me because it is a teen book, which means it's in the teen section, and if they pick the let's talk about it up, parents are not going to think that it is that book because it's not like, hey, explicitly, this is what you can do to have a great time in your bed with your like person you're with. Like
And
that's
also
not comfortable.
all the graphics on the front, they're diverse,
They're super
they're
simple.
fun, they're
Mm-hmm.
playing soccer, they're hanging out with their friends. If these images are so not bad, like they're saying that they're harmless, how come the images aren't on the cover of the book? It
Are
really.
they? Can you said one of the images was showing things though?
Oh, yes. There's so some of them would be like this one is describing how males can masturbate very descriptively, and it's showing definite anatomy. Um, and then there
And
are
let's
images.
pause here for a second. Just explaining it is bad enough. Then to go
Okay,
on and show images
yes, I
is
showed my
disgusting.
father.
I'm sorry.
It's horrible. I showed my father this video of my friend Savannah speaking at the city council meeting where she was reading word
Yeah.
for word this book, actually the section about the masturbation for boys, and I was so uncomfortable watching that with my father. Like it felt inappropriate, and it's because it is. And the fact that there's images to go along with it. So this one, can I show this image? It doesn't show anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so
If it
this is.
censors it, it censors it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we got something like
Yeah,
that.
that's not good.
That's it's pretty mild, but it's inappropriate for children to have access to. See, none of these are showing any. There are much worse than that. Just
I
one
believe
slide
you.
later,
I believe you. Like I'm like,
just
oh my god.
just one page later, and then to me, this makes me think: at what point does it stop? If we're okay with our children seeing this, at what point
Yeah.
does it stop?
There has
Um,
been books that have like I was watching a couple of and the fact that it's just describing it, it's porn in a book. That's what this is.
mhm.
And the issue that I think when it comes into our schools, The problem is there's this thing called grooming that can happen. It already does happen without this stuff in the classrooms, and maybe
Mhm.
not even the classrooms or the library, but it's in the public library, which a teenager can get a hold of it. We are seeing a high number of human trafficking happening due to sex being like at the center of this, of like someone pretending that they are a younger person to attract children out. Like I just saw it today that there were over 68 kids rescued from human sex trafficking. Like holy moly. And that was like all of them came down to that there was a predator online. And sometimes what they do is they're like, hey, let's read this book together. Or like, hey, let's watch this video together. Or hey, let's watch this, turn this music on and send me pictures. Send me a video like this. Like people don't think that these things are happening, and they are. And when we have someone who is grooming somebody, what they do is they make the conversation less uncomfortable, and then they take it a step further. And I'm
100%.
not gonna lie, like I was groomed in high school by someone who was older, and I was 17, he was 27, and he was completely grooming me into like those conversations. And then he would take it a step further and a step further and a step further. And then I found out he was doing it to multiple girls. And that was really shocking to me, because it was like, wow, I've sent pictures to him. I sent that to him. I had that conversation with him, and I was embarrassed. But
Mhm.
he then turned around and became aggressive and was just like, well, you need to send this to me. Like, you don't care for me. You don't this, you don't that. And I stepped away. But it was so, for years, I was like, nobody is going to like that part of my story. And it is so easy because he did like, oh, go watch this movie and then tell me what your thought about it. And it was just like, I need to step out. Not everyone
He
does.
he was getting you ready to
Yeah.
exploit physically, mentally. I mean, he already was
All he
exploiting
wanted was
mentally.
one thing.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
but
but he was doing this
the
with multiple people.
is they're getting you ready for further exploitation.
Whatever's next.
It's step
Yeah.
by step, and this is a beginning step
And it
because I
opens that
promise.
door to say, hey, this is what, we see it a lot across the US. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's one of our rules, my bad.
It's
We see it
fine.
across the US, where there are teachers who have been found to be sexually abusing students in high school and elementary school and middle school. And this is part of the grooming technique, is to get those conversations that, it's about my body, or like it doesn't, people don't realize that it doesn't start with like, hey, I want to do something to you. It usually starts with the, you look really pretty today. You look
Mhm,
so good. I just couldn't help keep my eyes off of you. Like that's how it starts off.
mhm,
Then they go a step further. Then they go to a place of like literally desensitizing us in that, to where we are like, oh, that's not a big deal. And then you're too far in by the time you realize what is actually happening to you. And
100%.
that's what's terrifying with these doors being open. And people are like, what's the problem? My kid talks about sex all the time. It's like, cool. That can be in your house. You can go buy the book from Amazon or buy the book somewhere else and have that in your home. But I don't want another teenager, and that's actually how has been starting a lot, is other teenagers there are found to, when they get trafficked this way, is that they're staying in the schools trafficking other children as well. That does happen. And so it's like, now it's like, well, that teenager tells another teenager to go get the book from the library. And then, we see it happening where that's bullying 101, where it's like they take that picture of that person and spread it around their campus. and
Yep.
and it's like, sometimes it's not even adults, sometimes it's teenagers doing it to teenagers, but we do see a large portion of this being adults to teenagers. And
Mhm.
it's not healthy to have that. So when it comes to these candidates, just to like wrap it back up, has any of them come out and said like, I don't stand for this?
Yes, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are both publicly expressed that they are against, like, specifically, like, trans men or women in girl sports. I know that to be
Okay.
factual about Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. Katie Porter, I have not seen any comments about it.
Okay. And what about the material in the educational systems or in the libraries and public libraries?
I haven't seen anything from any candidate about that.
We're gonna have to be like, you need to speak on this.
Right.
we
No,
we
they
need
do,
to know.
honestly.
And I'm
There's
pretty
really hot
sure we know where they're
topics.
standing on these things. Yeah.
100%. It is very safe to assume if you look at them as a person. I guarantee you, even with my distaste for Steve Hilton, I guarantee you he is gonna be against
He's not
this.
okay with it. And
Yes.
I think that that's actually an accurate. I think that's an accurate measure for him. I'm not sure. Again, I don't know him. I haven't really looked him up. I was like, who is this dude?
Mhm.
I'm relying on people sharing things. I need to go look these things up.
Mhm.
But I think it gets really messy because again there's so many people. I know the school boards stuff where it's like I've watched the videos where there's a, I forget what his name is, but he goes by Rev something on Instagram.
John
He was sharing at a
Umunchuku.
school board a book that he's like he was reading it out loud and they said who.
It's Pastor John Umunchuku. His Instagram's Rev Woo Truth. He's
Yes, so he
tall, like
was reading at a
big
school
strong
board
man.
where he was reading it out and they told him to stop reading. They're like, this is too explicit, please stop. And he's like, how is this too explicit? This is literally in the school library. My kid could go check it out. And I'm
It's
like, that's
actually
gross.
it's disgusting. Like, one more thing about this, like, there's
Yeah.
literally a chapter in this book about what is sexting, and sexting, this chapter shows you how to take nude selfies. This book is going towards teens. That is actually child pornography, and that is illegal.
It
How come
shows you
any
how to actually sext with like sexting
Yes. It
and take
literally
nude
shows
photos.
sexting, and this is available to children in the Huntington Beach Public Library. I will say it's not like actively available because the church that's local to the library, they keep all these books checked out. So when they have to bring it back, someone else goes and checks it out. It's the Huntington Beach City Council, it's their whole church.
Dang.
They keep it
That's
checked out.
strategic.
Very. But
Oh
it's like,
my God. Go
is that
church.
is that literally what it's come to? I mean, they are showing up to protect the children. I have high respect for that. Very high respect for
The
that.
library's like, we're gonna order more because people just keep checking it out, and it's like the church is like, we have 5 more copies to go get. Someone go get
Yeah,
them.
it's
uh
it's horrible.
I would rack that bill up, man. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, keep racking the bill up, put me in collections because this is not something I want at the library.
100.
Okay, so when it comes to education for California in general, we do know that the education in California has gone downhill. Kids are not reading at a good level. Kids are not knowing how to do math, English, right, and like knowing how to write, not just speak English, but knowing how to actually write. Test scores are down, and we have seen a lot of schools go away from like the SAT ACT route to get into college. We have seen, I don't know how you feel, but I have been in situations where I've talked to other people where they feel that even in college it is becoming it's not as challenging as it used to be in the college realm. Like a lot of people are just like, it's kind of like whatever, I just come to class, I leave, I don't really have to do anything. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I was a sophomore in high school when COVID hit, and
Oh
after
God,
that,
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
stopped requiring the SAT and ACT at most schools that we were all applying to, so none of us actually even had to take it. I
Yeah.
do think that college itself is like a whole other controversial topic. And I think it's pretty well talked about in the conservative community with like Charlie Kirk, someone who is very against college and just tries to expose how left college is and how most students lean left during
Mm.
college and then get out of college like what the heck. Now I'm like super right.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that college being less challenging is a very big hurdle that we need to get through because at the end of the day, we don't need that break in education. And
Yeah.
that's just my opinion on that. Even though I don't
Yeah.
value college the way that I feel like is a traditional
That's
stance,
okay.
I think if we
Right.
are going to go to college, we do not need the easy way out of things. So,
No. My take, so I was an admissions counselor for 8 years. I've been a professor. I've been a chair, those who, somebody who guides a doctoral student through it. Obviously, I've gone through all levels of higher education. My thing that I have seen is that so many students are going to college aimlessly. They're like, I'm going to just study something. And I'm like, that actually doesn't help them get through to the career they want in that progression. Like, if you want to be a musician, go be a musician for a little bit. Don't go in and get a bachelor's degree and then not use it. I think that is one of the biggest things is I see all the way up to the doctoral level, which is very disheartening, is that a lot of people go into the doctoral programs thinking that they're going to get this high paying job, and then it takes a couple of years after they get out. And it's not an issue of the education as much as it is that no one showed the person how to do transferable skills in their resume. That was kind of eye-opening to me, is that a lot of people literally banked just on the degree versus the experience. And we see the videos happening all the time where people are leaving education and going, cool, got this done in 6 years, now I'm ready for the job, and I have no experience to actually get the job. So it's like, I wish we would go back to like, okay, is college meant for your route? Okay, let's go that route for you. If you want to be a nurse or a doctor, totally get that. If you want to be a therapist, go that route. You want to be a teacher, that makes sense. You want to be a welder. And again, I was in admissions, so come at me, people. I was taught as an admissions counselor, it doesn't matter their route. If they want to be a welder, a hairstylist, just get them into our program and they can drop later. We want the numbers. And that shocked me because it was like I couldn't do it. I tried and I could not do it with everything inside of me. I'm like, you want to be a welder? First go to the community college, take this welding certificate, get the welding certificate done, get into the field, then come back when you're ready, get a bachelor's degree in business if you still need it. That, everyone can go to education, but education is or to higher education, not everyone is made for it. Their routes are not made for it. If you want to be a hairstylist, why are you not enrolling in a trade school to teach you how to be a hairstylist, or into a community college? Just get that license done, get into the field and start working. That's my belief. And I have, even as an admissions counselor, I actually got written up for it once because I told students to go the direction that they needed to go. And I would show them and be like, hey, call this community college, go here first, go to this trade school that will actually get you an apprenticeship with this and set you up for this. And they were like, well, you need to get them into this program. And I'm like, my numbers are so high and they stay enrolled because it's actually the route that they want to go in. Versus others who were doing this, they had a higher enrollment and a quicker drop off. Like 30 students would drop by the third week of school because they're just like, this was not my route. This is not the way I wanted to go. And I hate that because it's like, first off, school should not be that expensive. I said it. It should not be. It should not be $50,000, $60,000 a year. Students should not be made to live on campus their first year of freshman year. I think that's not great. We should be allowed to commute if that is an option for them. And then I think it should be a lot more affordable, and only if the route is what they need to go to. And that has actually, like, I have said that and it has actually gotten me in trouble. And I'm like, look, I've done all of the roles in a college. I have done all my education. It needs to make sense, because that's where you have the high dropout rate 2-3 years later, and people going, I don't know if I actually want to do this anymore. I want to do this other thing. And there's no time. Like, we get shamed not go to college in the beginning from high school. Like, what college are you going to? Oh, I'm going to go to community college. Oh, you're going there. You're a low life. Like, every high schooler heard it. Then we get shamed for taking a break. But it's just, it has to make sense of why we're in school, because we shouldn't, like, I took 8 years to get my bachelor's done simply because they kept changing the class requirement to transfer. And then I finally transferred. I only went online because I couldn't afford to go in person. And it was literally like $50,000 at that point in 2015. It was like $45,000 to $50,000 to go in person. I had to live on campus as a transfer student, versus online. It was significantly cheaper. So I'm like, ugh. Blows my mind.
It's an obvious choice for some situations. Like I said, it's different for everyone, because
Right.
like, if you want to be like a doctor, like, you're going to go down the college route. But my best friend, she graduated high school early. She went to cosmetology school and she learned everything while she was living at home. And now she worked a year at a salon as an assistant, and then now she rents a booth at this amazing hair salon, and she lives with her sister in a beachfront condo in San Clemente. Like, it is like the dream for her, and she's gone on like 2 international trips in the past year. Like, she is living her best life, all
She's
because she
killing it.
chose what works for her, and she's happy. like
Yeah.
truly, like this job like fills up her cup and she's happy and she's financially
Mm,
happy. She gets to like be artistic and creative and she gets to talk to her clients and she gets to
I
dress
love
up cute
that.
for work and like this is like what was meant for her. But I
Yeah.
could not imagine being in college for something that does not make me happy or in a job that does not make me happy. Because
Well,
that
and
is when you start to see a
exactly,
big
yeah.
decline in a person. Like during COVID, we were doing online school and my grades tanked down to F's. And I was a straight A student at the
Mm,
time. I had got on like Lexapro and like all these like other like
yeah.
medications because I was becoming depressed because I was
Mm,
so unhappy. And like that is just what happens when you are
yeah.
stuck in a situation. And good for you for pointing kids in the right direction because genuinely it makes such a difference.
I think what frustrates me the most, and I saw this a lot as a professor, and I still see it a lot as someone who guides students through their routes. Like, something I just do. I love doing it. I've always done it, even though I haven't been an admissions counselor since 2018, 19. When it comes to education, everyone is striving for the A. They're not actually striving to learn. That's what gets me. And that is not okay when you're going through a master's level or a PhD level or a D route. You need to get into that program and learn. Like, there are plenty of people out there that I'm like, you are so incredibly smart, but you are crying over not getting an A in that class. But what did you learn? And they've said, like, nothing. I didn't learn anything in this class because I was just focused on getting the A. Guilty,
Mm-hmm.
been there, done that. I think that a bachelor's should not take 4 years. I think that that is really setting up some students for failure when it comes to things like, you know, I would honestly psychology. If you're not going the MFT route, you don't need 4 years of psychology. I think that, and I know Charlie Kirk has said this too, where he's like, it doesn't make sense for a student to go for 4 years just doing a bunch of that. Over half of that is general education. 60
Mm-hmm.
units is general education that they don't actually need. Now, if you're an engineer, you better freaking be taking math. But
Right.
as an engineer, do you really need to have a sociology class that teaches you about history, like in the sense of like human development? Like, I don't think so,
Or
because you're going to need to go build
electives.
things. Why not take another like engineering class? I
Right.
don't get
Like
it. This is
over
what I don't
like
understand.
last summer I had to take like two or three electives for my general education. And I was like,
Right.
do I be taking art or history of rock and roll? Like I don't even like rock and
Because
roll.
everything else was like photography, which isn't bad. Like, if you want to take photography, but like sometimes you're just looking at the elective options for that semester and you're like, I don't. I had that too, where it was an art history class. I actually really ended up liking it because of the professor. I didn't do. I think I got like a C in the class because it was just really hard, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. And I
Mm-hmm.
worked, so I missed class and stuff like that. But it really should not be taking 4, 6, 8 years to get this degree done. And it's not the student's fault. It's the financial undertaking of what it is to get that degree, and then
Mm-hmm.
it is the class availability, which makes me so irritated that it's not like that class is available every semester when it could be offered.
Right.
That's neither here nor there. Schools will come at me. You can come and talk to me directly. But then it's also like, why are we making people take so much to be like, cool, you got this general education? Like, why can't we just jump into the higher level classes that gets us out and done as quickly as possible for things like business? Like, I've never understood why a business degree takes us 4 years when then all the information, not all of it, a lot of the information can be outdated by the time they're done. Like, I see that a lot with IT degrees where I'm like,
Yeah.
why is that even 4 year? Like, why can't that be a certification class? Some places have that, but it is like, it makes no sense. Someone's intelligence is not based off the degree that they have. It's based off how they use the knowledge that they know. And I think that's what kind of irks and gets under my skin. And then California is just freaking expensive when you go to the colleges here. It just is. If I could
Mm-hmm.
revamp the education system, I think that that would be really cool. It would probably make a lot of people mad, but I would like, let me just play with it.
It
Let me
makes like
fix it.
common sense. Like it's one of those things where like
Yeah.
it's common sense, but like we don't have that integrated in our system, and it's like for what reason?
No. And it
for no.
shouldn't be free. Like, that's going to make people mad, but it shouldn't be free, because when you have something that is free, the value of it goes down. We see that. That's what's happening in K through 12 right now, is that a lot of the standards are being lowered and they're not being risen. And I think that should change. I think we need to higher the standards, give the teachers support, really support those teachers, and get parents to get back involved with their students so that way they can thrive again. But I see a lot of teachers not being supported. I see families stepping back. I'm hoping there's a huge shift now that people are really seeing what is coming down the pipeline. But it is just so sad that we have lost so many good teachers. And then the good teachers who are still in the field, they're drowning. And so if our shameless plug is like, go love on a teacher today, because man, they have a rough.
That's
So,
so
okay.
true.
So let's talk about the Charlie Kirk situation. I know you confronted him about Jeff. Can you tell us what that experience was like? And we're going to talk about this, and we're going to kind of do an opinion piece here for me. I'm excited.
So the two characters, I guess, are Steve Hilton, who is running for governor, and then
Mm-hmm.
Jack Hibbs, who is definitely one of the most famous pastors of this generation. And he's pastor of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, and he's very well known for being very conservative. He's like a big
And
Trump
very
guy,
open.
very
Yep.
yeah, very openly. And honestly, I've never disagreed with him until this. So what happened is that Steve Hilton announced his campaign for governor. I went to his Huntington Beach rally. Just an open mind, free event. I'll go and I'll hear him out kind of thing. And I had seen
Mm-hmm.
these tweets of him being pro-choice and pro-governor or pro-gay marriage. So I just wanted to see what it was about because I knew that Jack Hibbs was like running this whole event. I promise you, like every single person my friend and I talked to at that event was from Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, or Calvary Chapel, Huntington Beach.
Wow.
Um,
It's
and
crazy.
it was that was the whole support was just Calvary Chapel people. Jack Hibbs ran that event. The Huntington Beach City Council was back there endorsing him, but they're all Calvary Chapel by the Harbor, which is the Huntington Beach one. They're all those people. Um, so definitely led to some confusion. Charlie Kirk was one of the endorsement videos for Steve Hilton that he played before he came out. Um, which honestly, as a big Charlie Kirk fan, is just very disheartening and like discouraging because he is such a bold person when it comes to standing for life. And not only life, but just
Mm-hmm.
like biblical values all around. Like
Right.
I've never disagreed with Charlie Kirk. If I'm being fully honest, I've never seen him say something as far as I've seen and been like, I disagree with him in the slightest. Never. And he so I didn't even tell you this, but I used to be very, very, very liberal before I became a Christian. I was an
Mm.
atheist, I was liberal, I was very pro choice. And becoming a Christian changed all of that for me. And now I'm like
Mm.
definitely the most passionate about being pro life. So Charlie Kirk had a very, very big part in that transition for me from
Mm-hmm.
radically pro choice to radically pro life. And so to see him not stand for life was very disheartening for me. So
Jeff
I
not standing for life, right?
who's Jeff?
Who didn't stand for life?
Oh, but by Charlie Kirk endorsing Steve Hilton, who is pro-choice.
Okay, so
So
Steve
both
Hilton
of
is
them,
pro-choice. Charlie, though, endorsed his candidacy for governor. Got it.
correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that didn't cut that came off in my head different. I have dyslexia, so it flipped
Okay.
it, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa!" I've
Yeah,
listened to Charlie before. I did not know. That's
yeah.
weird. That's left field. Okay, okay.
It's so sad to me because he was like the number one person like I would look to for like his arguments, his points, and like everything just like in my head always clicked with him and like made my points more firm in like my own personal beliefs. And so
Mm-hmm.
I went to see him at University California Long Beach, and he told me that he had no clue that Steve Hilton was pro-choice and that he had to look into it. And so that video got some attention, and it was just an unfortunate situation all around. Honestly, I will say my opinion on this is that for Charlie Kirk, it's very disappointing. However, for Jack Hibbs is a pastor, and for him to
Yeah.
endorse this ideology is completely different from Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is a man of faith. He's very public about it, and I do think it is misleading for him to endorse Steve Hilton 100%.
Right.
Jack Hibbs, I think that this is the most disgusting endorsement that I've seen so far. And
Yeah.
everyone is so blindly following Jack Hibbs because of this endorsement. All of the Calvary Chapel pastors are following right in his lead. Calvary Chapel,
Mm.
Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, and San Clemente are the three pastors that I've seen talk about Steve Hilton so far.
This is such a hard and sticky situation. And I agree with you 100%. Like Charlie, I'm kind of like, okay, he clearly doesn't know his friend, but I also know how I have had people flip flop with me where
Mm-hmm.
they'll tell me one thing and then post something different. And I've been like, oh, but what do you believe? I really did. When I saw that video with Charlie, I really did think that he was being sincere in like, he's like, I haven't heard of that. Like, and I don't feel like, so I saw some people like mocking it and being like, oh, he's pretending he doesn't know. And I'm like, I actually do believe him. I do believe that he doesn't know that his friend stands for this. And I
Mm-hmm.
do think he was like, I'm going to need to look that up
Right.
because like it's, in all honesty, we just don't know where our friends stand at all the time, at like all times.
That's true.
2022 is very different than 2025. So that's where it's like, okay, dude, like is this guy really like still standing on his old belief or did he change his belief? However, when you went to this rally, you asked him, "Hey, what are your stances?" and he dismissed
Right.
you.
Very,
That's
very
what got me.
obviously. In fact, you can see him pointing like this, and he's pointing at his security who's standing right next to me, and then he's pointing at me.
Oh.
And the fact was though, that we were in a crowd, there was no, like, he couldn't get away from me. And I was standing next to him for like
Mm,
3 minutes asking him this question. But he couldn't get away from me because we were in a very big crowd. There was nowhere to like turn to and like squirm through because
yeah.
everyone was like, Steve, I want a picture with you, Steve, Steve, you know?
Yeah.
So
I keep
he,
calling him Jeff. His
yeah,
name's
I
Steve.
thought you were talking about Jack. And I was like, oh,
I'm like, you're like, who's Jack? And I was like, I don't know who Jack is now, but okay. So his name's Steve.
Steve Hilton, Jack Hibbs. There we
I'm so
go.
sorry. Okay. I think that's why I'm like mixing them up. So you were with Steve. And the crazy part was that you had asked, you said, can I ask you a question to Steve? And he said
Yes.
yes, but what caught me about this was he was, instead of giving you his full attention, even when he said yes, he was like, okay, picture, and that bugged me because it was
Hmm.
just like, okay, you said yes to this question and then you distracted yourself with a photo opportunity. But then he goes, I'm not going to talk about that here. What, that's what he said, right? Something like that, like
Um,
um
I think it's like I
that
don't have time
conversation's
for
not for
long.
here or something, for a
I
long
think it's
conversation. Yeah.
yeah. I don't have time for a long conversation. I was like, well, it's just a
It's
question.
yeah, it's a yes, it's kind of like a yes or no thing. But I
Yeah.
think with that, like it, again, I think it would be nice for, I think, Charlie to come out and say kind of like, hey, I didn't know. Like, I really do think he was honest about that, but I would like to see him kind of like come back from that and just say like, hey, but I also understand that like he's also a grown man where it's like he's not going to know all his friends.
Mhm.
And I mean, they all voted for Trump as well. And Trump
Right.
is actually pro-choice. So it's kind
Mhm.
of like, I get that, like, it's like, look, at the end of the day, as a Christian, and this is going to sound pretty like probably piss somebody off, but at the end of the day, our relationship, God, is between our heart and his. And my hope is that Steve gets, some conviction in his heart if he calls himself a Christian, that God can work in his heart and soften his heart towards this. Where I have a problem, like you said, is Jack Hibbs, he got very wide in 2020 because he was one of the only churches in Southern California that did not shut down. He kept
Right.
his doors open. And as a church, you're not supposed to be political when it comes to the 501c3, or you can get that ripped away. And he is
Mhm.
becoming very political and actively political. But then it comes to the abortion and it's like, if you're going to be political, at least go all the way with the Bible,
Mhm.
abortion's wrong. the issue, and I want people to hear this, is like the issue is that it's a pastor who says he follows the Bible and he is actively endorsing a candidate. And again, it comes back to the Trump thing too, where it's like, well, there's two lessers, there's one less evil than the other person when we were in 2024 election, but this time around there is someone who is pro-life. So it's like,
Right.
why are you not supporting the pro-life person,
Yeah.
Chad Bianco?
And
That's what I don't understand.
I asked Charlie Kirk about that, and he told me he immediately got well, okay, I shouldn't say defensive, but he immediately said, "Be careful, guys. This guy kneeled to BLM," which
Right.
is the controversy surrounding Chad Bianco.
So let's talk about that in a second. Go continue, and I'm going to tell you what I found with that video.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is just that he remains consistent that he did not kneel to BLM, that he was praying with them. I've seen him like give more context to the story that he's like met the guy before, they've prayed together before, he felt kind of tricked into it.
There's a whole video out there about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can clearly see it was not him bowing down to BLM.
I agree. However, for argument's sake, let's say he did.
Yeah.
I am never ever gonna die on the hill that is worse than being pro-choice.
Abortion.
Here,
let's dig into this for a second, because the video was so grossly misconstrued that even in 2020, when I saw that video, there's another video where it was like the guy's like, yeah, look, he's bowing down and da-da-da, like he's on his knee, look at him. It's conflated with that video. But right. In the actual video, you see the guy going, guys, because they're getting aggressive and they won't stop chanting. Mm-hmm. And they're getting upset. And he's like, let's take a knee and let's pray together. And that's what you hear the guy like take a knee, like everyone take a knee. And then they started praying. Mm-hmm. However, I agree with you. I agree that it is not worse than abortion. And my husband brought something up because I was talking to him because I was like, I'm really frustrated that this is the argument that people are dying on. And he goes, Tanisha, like, that was before everyone knew how bad that organization was. That was way before we found out that they were purchasing all of this stuff with that money and really hurting the narrative of actually standing for people. Because, we're in Southern California, if you know, like we have a lot of race riots and things like that we've grown up since the 90s. Like that's a big thing here, but we are a melting pot of people. So to say, well, like you said, but I think when I saw that, I didn't take it the same way I think as other people. I thought he was telling it as a joke of like, be careful with what you see on the internet because not everything is true. That's what I thought he was trying to say about it. But then I was like, oh, I could see how that was kind of swaying differently. Because when I heard it, I was just like, oh, he's just telling a joke of like, be careful what you see on the internet because anybody can turn anything into false. But I think you're right that it was more of like, well, be careful, because that's what he supports. But I don't know. I'm conflicted. I want to sit with him.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
and so I went back and I wasn't allowed to talk to him because I had already talked to him. His staff, she looked at me. Her name is Macy. She runs his whole show and she does a really good job at it. But she looked at me and she goes, you were at Long Beach. You can't talk to him today because you already talked to him. I was like, that's so not fair because he told me that he would do the research. So I'm here to I came prepared this time. I came to
but I think this kind of conversation isn't meant for that kind of a rally kind of thing. Yeah. I would want this conversation to be more like what we're doing because I think digging into it differently would actually be very enlightening versus these kind of table talks are really like, okay, go. And that I don't feel like, that's kind of like just me. Like, I'm like, when I go and meet people, if I'm like, oh, I went and met Bianco at an event and it wasn't a time for me to be like, hey, I want to talk to you about foster care because he was like so many people there. But it's also like really hard because I know he's so busy that it's like he hasn't returned the email. And so I'm like, oh, dang, I should have just did my shot then. Because it would have been better. I'd be like, pull out your calendar. We're making a calendar invite. But I think that's what's so hard about it is because it really is this one in a lifetime opportunity. But I would love to see that research being done. But I keep coming back to if we only make friendships as Christians, if we only make friendships with people who are Christian that believe every single thing that we do, we're not actually going to ever reach the world. So my prayer is that because Charlie is actually close to him, that Charlie rubs off on Steve, you know, because
Yeah.
then like maybe he has a change of heart on that. Or maybe he's, you know, wrestling with what he actually believes. Like that's my hope, is that he's wrestling with it right now, where it's like he used to be that and he's changing, but he's afraid to say it, and that he gets courage to say like, no, I'm for life. Because it is hard. It is hard to say that statement, because it is the deal breaker in politics. It really is. As a public speaker, it's the one that gets me shut out of doors when I come
Mhm.
out and say it. Am I willing to take that? Yes, because abortion specifically is around for it is a it's a big issue for human trafficking. It is a big issue for former foster youth, because it is something that has hidden people's abuse. So I come in with it.
Yes.
I want to come into that conversation with love, because I have watched people tell, like they have personally come to me and said, Denisha, I was forced to get these abortions because I was being sexually abused, and my
Mhm.
heart just breaks. So it's like, my thing is like, I think people, they're just like, abortion's wrong, and it's like, okay, I agree with you. Now let's take it a step further to say, you who went through it, I want to love you, and I want to be there to say, you know what, I know you didn't know what it was before, and maybe you did, but maybe you have excused what it actually was. Whatever
Mhm.
reason, I'm going to love you. And I hope that my love for them would rub off so much that they would be able to, one, forgive themselves for doing that, but then also be pro life, of not running down that hill. But I think there are so many people who have done an abortion and gotten an abortion and supported an abortion, that they are so terrified to switch that, because then they have to sit in what that actually was. And
Mhm.
I'm on that side where so many people I care for, they have had those, they've been either forced into the abortion or they thought it was their only option, and they have come to me and they're like, Denisha, like, I don't deserve a relationship with God at that point. And that's where I get to walk with them. But I think so many times when we see the conversation of abortion, it's very aggressive, and it's very like, you're a horrible person, you're this, you're that. And it's like, there's so much pain in that person that I think sometimes we miss it if we're not
Yeah.
careful. And
I
I think that's what I struggle with, of why I'm not always like, you know, I'm pro life, and I'm also pro loving people, and not saying like, oh, you do you. Like it's one of those things that it's like, there's some people I'm like, you're so lost, I cannot reach you. And then there's other people that it's just like that they really did think that was their only option.
Mhm. Yeah,
So it's hard.
it wraps up like how we were talking about earlier with like transgenderism, where it's like, I love you enough to like not be okay with this, because at the end of the day it's not okay. And
Yeah.
that's just the truth of it. It's harmful, it's murder, but at the same time it's real women going through real things, and it's not easy, it's not black and white. And women deserve to be met with empathy about these things, but it's, I don't know, I feel very very strongly about how I feel about abortion now, and probably because
Yeah.
of, like, yeah, I didn't have like an abortion in the past I regret, but I do regret like ever supporting it. So
Because you
it's
realized there was a baby on the other side.
powerful. Yeah, it's
It was,
something as
I
powerful.
think there, I forget who it was, but I saw this clip, and it might have been, oh my gosh, she's blonde. Oh my goodness. And she's on the pro life side. She's really blonde hair. She's pregnant right now. Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. But anyway, she had said like, it's so crazy to realize that there should be millions of Gen Z here that are not here because of abortion. And that hit me. I was like, there are my aged people, 35-year-olds who are supposed to be here, that should be my friend, that I never got to meet. And I've had two miscarriages, and those are very different than
Right.
abortions. Very, very different. And people are pushing those things together. And it's crazy to me because when I had my first miscarriage in 2019, I had shared about it, and someone told me, get over it. And the way that it was handled, I was 12 weeks and I like actually had like active contractions, and like did it all at home, and like was not told to go into, like, the doctor's like, you'll just pass it and flush it and you're fine. And
Wow. And no
yeah,
child at any stage of development deserves that type
No,
of passing.
but
It
no
is literally
mother deserves to be told that either. And that was what
no.
was so heartbreaking. And someone told me, like, you need to get over this. And I was like, and this person was pro abortion. The reason why I bring this up is because they were pro abortion. And the stance that this person took was basically like it was, and she said it wasn't even life. And I'm like, oh, and it had like this moment of just like God was like, click. Do you see why we cannot in our today, we cannot care for the miscarriage is because it would require them to care about the abortion. And I just
Mhm.
sat there and I just wept. And I was like, okay, that's not the kind of thing I want to hear while I'm grieving a loss of my child. But at the same time, it just clicked to why so many people cannot value that child at any point. Because if they had to honor the mother who lost their child to miscarriage, they would also have to honor the baby that was aborted and that loss for that person. And there is a grief that people don't realize abortion causes. And so it's just like this whole thing like, we want a governor who's going to be pro life. That would be like a miracle for California. It just would be
And
the literal, I would be like, the Lord done did, like turned and flipped over California. But
100%.
it's
But the
hard.
reason why it matters is because of funding. So I'm
Yeah.
not too sure
Yeah.
their jurisdiction in like making things legal. My two things with abortion that I want to see change with a pro-life governor is spending on funding and also making California a sanctuary state for abortion. So currently,
Mm,
women can come from out of state with our taxpayer dollars. They can stay and they can receive an abortion if they're coming from a state that is not legal for them.
yeah.
There's a abortion clinic. It's Planned Parenthood in Orange, California, and that one they will house you nearby. They'll transport you to and from the clinic. They'll do abortion up to the ninth month, and they will. It's a multiple day long procedure. Like you have to stay a few nights. If you're underage, they will help you seek judicial bypass to come get an abortion in California without your parents' consent. So obviously, like without being too sure of how much a governor can control in regards to those things, there are minor changes that can happen that can significantly reduce the amount of abortions provided.
And we could, I would rather my tax dollars go toward helping the foster care system, helping pro life movement, helping those mothers who want to choose life be able to
Mm.
choose life and to help like, pay their rent, things like that. And that's stuff that we're doing as the pro life
Yep.
movement that people don't even understand. But it baffles me when someone's like, no, your tax dollars are going to be forced to go towards this thing. And it's crazy because when you, I had my daughter 6.5 weeks early, I was 8 months pregnant. At no point did they say, Denisha, you're going to have to take her life to survive. There is medication that they were able to give me to help me be able to do that. And I was able to have her normally because they already were like, yep, this happens. Sometimes women have, preeclampsia, they have high blood pressure, these things happen. And we already have this whole thing. They have a NICU for children, babies to stay at. And there were babies in that NICU who were 22 weeks old
Yep.
and they survived because why
Yep.
they saw the medical treatment was to help that child, not to say, well, sorry, you had him early, take him away. So it is just like it baffles me when I hear these things in my own state and it's like, okay, if you want to go get an abortion, then you get to pay for it out of your own pocket. That should be the thing. It should not be federally funded. It should not be
Yeah.
that my tax dollars go to that if I don't want it. If I want my tax dollars to go somewhere else, I want to be able to donate to that in where I see fit. I shouldn't
Mhm.
be forced as a citizen to say, you know what, you have to let it go to this. And that's really what we're fighting for pro life. Like, if it's like you want to go make that choice, cool, go do that by yourself. Like, we don't want that for you. I mean, I don't want that for people. I'm not going to speak for everybody else. I don't want that for you. But if that's the choice you make, then you need to pay for it by yourself. You should not force me to pay for it for you.
Mhm.
But then it's like you realize when you realize how much sex trafficking is tied to this, how much child abuse is tied to this, how much people like it baffles me that you can't, as a high schooler, you cannot go and get Advil from the nurse's office, but they will drive you in California to an abortion clinic. That gets me without the parent consent. Like, I can't get freaking Advil, but I can get an abortion.
Yep.
Like, make it make sense.
Yeah.
And don't do this thing where it's like, oh, then we'll just give them Advil. It's like, oh my god, no. Like, again, my tax dollars, I should be able to allot where they go. And I
Yeah.
think that like, as a governor, if I could see those things change where it's like you can elect where it goes, I would rather just be able to choose where I want my money, my tax dollars to go.
Mhm.
And then if you want to go get an abortion, that's on you. You have to pay for it. Like, I'm not saying you can't. My hope would be that someone would teach you what it actually is, and then you can get, if you do end up doing that, that people will love you enough to be there for you when you're grieving, because it is more than just a clump of cells, like all the science behind it. But it just frustrates me that we don't see how tied this is to other bad things. It's the same thing
Mhm.
with the bathroom stuff. It's the same thing with the book stuff. It's like people just don't think past that step. And that's
Yeah.
what kind of
Well,
makes me sit back and I'm like, oh God.
it's 100% spiritual. It's 100% evil, and it's all
Right.
connected by the same thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's why it's so important to, when you do your voting, is that you're voting based off of your beliefs. And that goes both ways, is that someone can choose that as a Christian or as somebody who's not. I used to be very much like pro abortion because I thought it was just this thing, and then I saw a video and I was like, that's not what I thought it was.
Right?
um and that, like, I literally thought it was just like nothing was going on, you were just making sure you weren't pregnant, kind of a thing, like birth control. But
Mhm.
even that has caused so many women to have issues because of what it's actually doing. So it's just like, it makes my mind just go, it's
Yeah.
hopeless. But it's not. That's why we vote. Okay, do you have anything else you would like to add before we end brief
No,
abruptly?
I think we got
I think we
everything in
did, we
there.
covered a lot.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, you guys can follow her, be nice to us, leave comments and questions. But I think really this is just the start of looking up things that are hot topics. And it really is hard to start our journey of looking at politics and being honest with ourselves. I'm going to be
Mhm.
honest with you, though, is that when you stand on a side, that's the side you choose to stand on. You don't have to stay there. And if you do grow, we would love to invite you over to this side, and we want to meet you with love. And I do ask everybody on both sides to be kinder, because that is
Mhm.
also a big thing that's happening right now. There is no safety, there is no conversation. It's just yelling at each other, and we want to be different. So go be different. Let's have tabletop conversations, and we'll go from there. You guys have a great day.